Welcome to Weekly Horoscope with Arik Xander. This week is about moving from chaos and kind of not knowing what's really going on into alignment, and then whatever it is that you're working on, it starts to come alive, which is absolutely amazing and a good process. But the question kind of arises, like, why do things get chaotic and how can we fix them if we even need to fix them? Well, you have to imagine that any system left alone tends to fall into chaos. Rooms get messy, communication breaks down, organizations lose their structure. So we're about to enter into tax season in the United States, and everything needs to be accounted for. Ecosystems can destabilize if there's no accountability and checks and balances going on. So energy spreads out and coordination kind of decreases when that happens, like when things are getting widespread. So chaos is the default direction. It's like the law of entropy, but there's something we can do about it. So we need to align with the divine, which means we need to know that there's something that is guiding us, like the intention of the all good. And when we can do that and really be able to do that, then like the atoms, everything begins to kind of, the energy begins to reorganize as to the divine structure. So for order to appear again, something within us needs to synchronize with those higher blueprints. Let's just call it like that. And this is usually the parts of us of the parts of us that don't want to synchronize. So even people, they are able to align with information, shared information, timing, incentives, leadership, all of that. So most chaos in human systems is coming through information distortion. So when we can get clear about the information that we're processing and that we're working with, we can clear up conflicts, misinformation, unclear relations or leadership. Like, who are we following? What's going on? What are we doing? Misinformation. And once the clear information begins to spread, we can have coordination and organization. And this is all coming up this week because we have like amazing transits. The sun is going to be in alignment, or it's going to combust, or in traditional astrology, it's called a Cazimi, with Mercury. That's happening this week. And we also have Venus, Neptune, Venus, Saturn. And looking at the chart, we have a Mercury trine Jupiter. So this is a lot of stuff. Don't worry. You don't need to, like I said, you don't come here to hear all the details. It's kind of like, it's intense. I'm going to translate it for you. It's another very, very exciting week. And I want to start off with the Sun and Mercury, because they're going to be meeting in the same exact degree. And so it means that Mercury, the archetype of the mind and communication, who is retrograde, by the way, like is in retrograde motion, which means from our perspective on Earth, it's going backward. It's sitting right at the heart of the sun. And I call it a combustion because the sun is going to like intensify and blow up any kind of planet that's next to it. Not literally, but just like in the energy, in the atoms, and the symbology of it. So what it means for us is, because the sun is our being, it's our ego, it's our self, and Mercury is our mind, our thinking can become very clear, or it can be like whitewashed in a way, like just like flushed out. And it can also be it can help us with that alignment. How are we going to align our minds, our thoughts, the way that we communicate? It's a really good day to have an important conversation, or to write something meaningful, to make a decision that has been waiting. The mind is lit up from the inside. So there's illumination going on, and we can project that, our intentions out, and Mercury can handle that heat of that light of the sun. And they're never too far away from each other anyway, so it's not like a rare event, but when it happens, it's something that we want to utilize. So think about any kind of project that you're working on, because there's a huge emphasis this week on project management. And it's not like only like, okay, this week we're going to manage projects. No, it's like, how do we manage projects in general? And, learning, kind of recalibrating and aligning with what's the best way to manage projects. So in any project, first you have the moment of clarity, and you have then perhaps even a shared direction if you're working with a team or if you're working with someone else. And in our lives, we often wait for the moment when things finally make sense. So when the purpose of a project, maybe it's a relationship or work or whatever, we wait for the clarity to come. So it's that point where the scattered ideas, which a lot of them can come up during retrograde, Mercury retrograde, but it's that point when the confusion, it turns into a defined intention. So that's kind of the Mercury Sun alignment or combustion or Cazimi, okay, depending on how you're approaching it. So we're gonna get a little bit of clarity with the intention. Then on the same day, Venus, Neptune are going to align. So Venus is our devotion. It's what people feel drawn toward. Neptune, now in Aries, it represents our vision. It's like our spiritual antenna. It's the imagination. And when these two align, we might feel a bit inspired by a shared ideal, that vision, that thing that we're clear about. We begin to contribute. We begin to gather our resources, and we come together for these clear, meaningful projects. And we do it voluntarily because we are inspired by the vision. I'm not saying you shouldn't get paid. I'm just saying you're motivated to do it. You want to volunteer. You want to do it. So that, of course, is the best thing when you're like getting paid to volunteer. Like you would volunteer, but you get paid. It's like, that's a sweet spot. So the emotional and the imaginative atmosphere with Venus and Neptune, it's that collective inspiration that really motivates communities to donate and to participate in that vision that we're clear about now. And for the astro nerds, Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. So with Venus and Neptune coming together, all right, in the beginning sign, like of Aries, it's really powerful, okay? So it's about love and freedom and getting clear and seeing where we want to take action, where we want to go. The next day, March 8th, Venus is then going to meet Saturn as well, because, wow, Saturn and Neptune are close to each other at the moment. It's very exciting. It's not as exciting in some ways, but it could be exciting. So it's like Venus is, and Neptune is the imagination, but Venus and Saturn is more the structure, the responsibility, the reality. Also very good for manifestation. What do I mean by that? I mean, it can feel very heavy at first, but it's actually a gift if we are working with the starlight properly. So it helps us to know what is worth fighting for, because it is an Aries. So what is actually valuable versus what only looks good, the aesthetic appeal. So what commitment feels like versus the fantasy, what the fantasy feels like. So we're getting kind of a reality check with that. So it's going to supercharge our manifestation powers. We do not want any regrets. Saturn is testing us, and it's testing us how much we love. Venus is the love. So how much do we love? So what does that mean? That means inspiration is not enough to build it. We need to actually do the work that is required. We have to measure. We have to be strict with the instructions. Venus and Saturn, they are reflecting the moment when our devotion and our values become concrete commitments this week, and the structured work. And that's true for any project. So we need the vision, and then we want to do it, and then we need to do it, like do the actual actions. And then the next day, Mercury is going to be making a nice aspect with Jupiter. And this is a nice harmonious connection because we want to spread the knowledge and the coordination of that project that we're working on. And it could be like the marketing or the organization where the various components of the project are accounted for. Remember, we're going into tax season in the United States. So we're, the bookkeeping, wrapping it all up, very important, getting it all organized, getting ahead with our records, because that is a process of reviewing, documenting, and ensuring that everything is correctly accounted for and arranged. Mercury and Jupiter often represent this kind of clear overview. Now, they are both retrograde when they make the trine. So they're looking back and reviewing all the things that happened in the past. And then the next transit will be, then Jupiter is going to go direct. So then you're going to have Mercury retrograde, Jupiter direct. Oh my goodness. And that's then, okay, now let's move forward with what we looked at in the past. So this is the completion and the boost of energy that we need to move forward as the system moves from preparation into active function. So we set everything up. Now we let the divine do the rest. Okay? That's all. All we can do is set everything up. We are not in control of everything then that comes after that. That is like the divine work that is just like the magic of life. So Jupiter moving forward represents the release of that momentum and the beginning of the outward expansion after that period of review that we've been going through. And so this is generally very good energy. Plans that felt stuck, they begin to move forward, which is nice. Abundance that was kind of gathering internally begins to show up externally. Things begin to kick off. So, it's not just about wishful thinking. It's about getting in sync and riding those cosmic currents. Now, at the end of the week, very interesting, Mars is going to align with the North Node, which is pretty intense if you ask me. But here's how we can look at it. After this week of reflecting and planning and organizing, there comes a moment when action must be taken that commits you to that future reality that's opening up. North Node is like where we're going. So it's that future direction of a project, a system, or that life path that you've chosen. And the action naturally is going to separate you from the old. All right? The old patterns, the old ways of doing things. So that's how we can look at that. So it's this beautiful week of like really understanding what is the project, all the steps there, and then moving forward and kind of leaving the past behind, like where it is, like where it should be. Beautiful. Okay, so I want to go over the horoscopes for each sign, just a general. Of course, there's more in-depth by category on arikxander.com. Like you can have the whole report there. But for the week of March 7th to the 11th, March 8th, excuse me, March 8th to the 14th, we have, we're going to start with Pisces because we're still in the sign of Pisces. So looking at the chart, Pisces, this week feels very personal and powerful for you. The planets they are amplifying the dreams, the love, the inspiration, but they ask you to really define what is real. So you're learning the difference between fantasy and devotion, which is quite nice. When you choose commitment, Jupiter is going to give you the confidence that you need to expand. Aries, so you do very well when things are moving quickly, and this week is finally bringing you some momentum. So a realization hits around the beginning of the week, so right at the beginning of the week, that helps you to like really say exactly what you mean and claim what you want. So there's very strong inspiration for you, but the real magic comes when you commit to something worth building. And then when Jupiter goes direct, the path ahead feels open again. So it'll be go time. Taurus, your values are kind of under the spotlight this week. A vision or a dream about love, creativity, or purpose may feel beautiful at first, but the week is going to ask, is this real? The planets are helping you to choose what truly deserves your loyalty. And once you commit, the growth that follows is going to be long lasting and stable, which is right up your alley. Gemini, your ruling planet, Mercury, is glowing this week, still retrograde. But what that means is that conversations can be very powerful tools for you. What you say could change the direction of a relationship or an idea or a collaboration. Stay open to inspiration, but do not skip that planning stage. It's very important. When Jupiter goes direct, doors connected to learning, teaching, and communication, they start to open again. Cancer, the week is inviting you to trust both your intuition but also the structure. So you might feel inspired by a dream about your future or your work, but the real test is never like about, like how quickly you can do it. It's more like, can you be patient? Build it patiently. So there's a clear conversation that could happen this week that's going to shift your perspective. By the middle of the week, momentum is going to return in ways that help you move forward with confidence. Leo, looks like this week there's going to be some clarity arriving, all right? Like it's going to be like the spotlight on the stage. So you might suddenly understand a bigger vision for your life, your creativity, your leadership. There's going to be a lot of inspiration flowing easily, but remember, Saturn is reminding you that greatness requires discipline. So commit to the path that challenges you to grow. Jupiter going direct is going to help the world start responding to your efforts, which is nice. Virgo, you have a very sharp mind this week. This week is like right up your alley. You might finally start to organize your thoughts or your plans that felt scattered before. Some important conversations or decisions are going to help define what the next step is. Inspiration is bringing the dream. That's what we covered for this week. But Saturn is asking you to make it practical, which you're very good at. So once Jupiter goes direct, partnerships and collaborations begin to move forward again. Libra, love, values, and commitment are taking center stage this week. So a romantic or creative ideal may feel magical at first, but you're being asked to see what's truly sustainable. The good news is real devotion becomes clearer now. So with Jupiter going direct, there could be opportunities to expand your daily life or your work routines. That all starts to unfold again. And Scorpio, something becomes crystal clear this week, perhaps about a relationship, a goal, or your own motivations. The emotional motivation you feel is very powerful, but Saturn is reminding you that loyalty and effort is what making things last. So when Jupiter goes direct for you, you're going to feel it like in your creative energy, and maybe even some joy begin to flow more freely within you and around you. Sagittarius, okay, you are ruled by Jupiter, so Jupiter going direct, you're going to feel the shift immediately. First, it's comes a moment of insight where about where you're headed. Then comes the work of making that vision real. So conversations and plans help to align everything, and by the end of the week, your natural optimism, it just feels normal again. Capricorn, this week speaks your language, vision and structure. Inspiration may arrive through a creative idea or emotional realization, but Saturn reminds you that mastery comes from commitment. When you decide something is worth the effort, you become unstoppable. And so Jupiter going direct is going to help movement return to plans that were stalled. And last but not least, Aquarius, your mind lights up with ideas and conversations that feel very meaningful this week. A dream about the future might inspire you, but reality asks you to ground it in practical steps. So once the structure, like looking at the chart, is in place, things begin to move quickly again. So Jupiter going direct can bring financial or material growth back into motion. Beautiful. Thank you guys so much. You want the daily transits, please read them on rxander.com. And please feel free to share this with anyone in your reality that you think needs to hear it. See you guys next week. Bye.